Sometimes a dog walks into a family and quietly chooses one person, following them room to room, sleeping beside their door, watching them differently than everyone else, resting their chin on their knee without being asked, moving when they move, settling when they settle. And what's fascinating is, it usually has very little to do with obedience. It isn't about who feeds them most. It isn't about who trained them longest, or who plays with them hardest, or who buys the most expensive treats. Sometimes the person a dog chooses is the quietest one in the house, the one who sits in the corner at family gatherings, the one going through something hard and not saying so out loud. And somehow, the dog already knows. So what is actually happening when a dog makes that quiet, invisible choice? What are they reading that the rest of us can't see because they are reading something they always are? You are not imagining it. If a dog has chosen you, or if you've watched a dog choose someone else in a way you couldn't quite explain, there is deep psychology behind that moment. Ancient, precise, and surprisingly emotional psychology. Dogs are not choosing based on rank. They are not calculating who is strongest or most dominant. That framework, the one that spent decades telling us to be pack leaders, has been quietly dismantled by modern animal behavior research. What dogs are actually doing is something far more tender than that. They are scanning for safety. The first thing a dog reads when they enter a room is nervous system energy. Not your words, not your commands, your nervous system. Dogs are extraordinarily sensitive to the involuntary signals human bodies send: the pace of your breathing, the tension in your shoulders, the micro shifts in your posture, the subtle changes in your tone that happen when you're anxious before you've even admitted it to yourself. They feel all of it, constantly. What researchers in animal attachment have come to understand is that dogs don't simply respond to how you act, they respond to how your body feels to be near. And a nervous system that feels calm, regulated, and emotionally predictable registers to a dog the way a warm blanket registers to someone cold. It isn't dramatic. It isn't loud. It just feels safe. This is why the person a dog chooses is often not the most enthusiastic person in the room. Excitement can actually read as instability to a dog's nervous system. What they are drawn to at a neurological level is steadiness. The person who doesn't spike and crash emotionally. The person who feels the same on Tuesday as they did on Saturday. The person whose presence makes the air in the room feel settled. Dogs often attach most deeply to the human whose presence feels emotionally safest, not the most exciting, the safest. Consistency does something to a dog that treats alone never can. When one person in a household maintains a reliable routine, wakes at the same time, moves through the day in predictable patterns, responds to the dog with the same calm warmth day after day, the dog's brain begins to map that person as an anchor, a fixed point, something that does not change when the world outside does. This isn't about rigidity, it's about emotional reliability. There's a difference between someone who is stiff and someone who is steady. Dogs know that difference immediately. They are drawn to the person who, even in difficult moments, doesn't become someone different. The person who gets sad but stays soft, who gets frustrated but remains gentle. That consistency isn't invisible to a dog, it is everything. And this is where it gets interesting. Because the person who becomes a dog's anchor isn't always the person who tries the hardest. Sometimes they are the person who simply shows up the same way over and over without making it a performance. The dog notices that, and slowly, without ceremony, they begin to organize their emotional world around that person. There is a particular kind of human that dogs seem drawn to in a way that feels almost uncanny. The quiet one, the observer, the person who sits back at the party while others fill the noise. Dogs are drawn to emotional availability. And emotionally available people tend to be quieter ones, the people who aren't performing, who aren't seeking attention, who simply exist in a space with a kind of open presence. To a dog, that openness feels like an invitation, not a command. not pressure, just room. Introverts often report that dogs gravitate toward them even in crowded rooms full of people trying to get the dog's attention. And the psychology behind that is not mysterious. The dog is not rewarding shyness. They are responding to a nervous system that isn't demanding anything from them. The quiet person in the corner isn't reaching, isn't grabbing, isn't flooding the dog with stimulation. They're just there. And to a dog, just being there without agenda reads as profoundly safe. Some dogs form their deepest bonds with humans who are going through something difficult. This is one of the most emotionally striking things about canine attachment psychology. Dogs don't just attune to calm. They attune to emotional honesty. And humans who are grieving, anxious, lonely, or carrying something heavy tend to be more emotionally transparent than people who are performing wellness. Their bodies tell the truth, and dogs respond to truth. There is research suggesting that dogs can detect shifts in cortisol, the stress hormone, through scent, that they can track changes in heart rate and breathing with remarkable precision. What this means, in practice, is that a dog may actually know you are struggling before you've said a word to anyone. And rather than pulling away from that heaviness, many dogs lean into it. They stay closer. They watch more carefully. They position themselves between that person and the door. This is not pity. It is attunement. The dog has identified the person in the room who most needs a nervous system to co-regulate with, and they have quietly volunteered. Dogs don't just study your actions, they study your emotional patterns. Over weeks and months of living beside someone, a dog begins to synchronize with them in ways that go beyond behavior. Their heart rate patterns start to mirror their person's. Their sleep rhythms align. Their breathing in quiet moments begins to match. What was once two separate biological systems slowly becomes something that functions almost like one. Eventually, your dog stops simply living beside you and starts emotionally regulating with you. This is co-regulation, and it is one of the most profound things that happens in a deep human-dog bond. The dog is not just comforted by your presence, they are physiologically helped by it. And you, without realizing it, are often helped by theirs. The sound of their breathing, the weight of them against your leg, the simple fact of them watching you from across the room. Your dog may trust you most, not because you trained them best, but because your presence makes their nervous system relax. You may have noticed that the dog who has chosen someone doesn't just follow them, they watch them, monitoring from across the room, positioned so they can see the door and see their person at the same time, moving to a new spot when their person moves to a new room without being called. This isn't neediness, this is attachment behavior. In the same way that a child keeps visual contact with a trusted caregiver in an unfamiliar space, a dog maintains proximity to their emotional anchor. They are not anxious, they are organized. Their chosen person is the home base from which they explore the world and the safe place they return to when the world becomes too much. The monitoring, the following, the quiet positioning, these are not signs of a dog who is too dependent. They are signs of a dog who has found something rare and knows it. A relationship that feels consistent, calm, predictable, and safe. There is nothing you had to do to earn this. If a dog has chosen you, has made you their person with that quiet, certain, unexplainable gravity, it is not because you performed something perfectly. It is because something in the way you exist in the world felt to them like safety. Something in your presence said, "This is someone whose nervous system I can trust. This is someone I can regulate beside. This is someone who feels the same on the hard days as on the easy ones." You didn't have to be the loudest, you didn't have to be the strongest, you didn't have to earn it with training or effort or the right brand of treats. You just had to be you, consistently, quietly, honestly you, and somehow, in the way that only animals seem capable of, they saw that. Maybe dogs choose one person first because they understand something that humans spend whole lifetimes trying to learn. Safety is felt long before it's explained, and they never needed the explanation.